While nowadays we have quite a few Spider-Man movies to look forward to, there was in fact a time when the idea of making a Spider-Man movie would get you laughed out the door. But everyone has to start somewhere, so today we're going to be going back to the very first cancelled Spider-Man movie back in the 1970s, which would have been written by Steve Krantz. So, what if it was made? In the fall of 1971, Marvel Comics would sell the TV, movie, and radio rights for all of their characters to a concert promoter named Steve Lemberg. This was reportedly a surprisingly cheap agreement, which was planned to involve movies, TV shows, radio broadcasts, and even musicals. However, at this point in time, Stan Lee was not nearly as big of a name as he is today, which is something that Lemberg wanted to change. He would spend a reported $25,000 or $173,000 in today's market on a huge promotional event. Said event would take place at Carnegie Hall in New York City in January of 1972. However, the event ended up being an unmitigated disaster, with far too much money being spent. The musical acts on display were atrocious, the costumes were extremely poorly made, and by night's end, the crowd would apparently crumple up comic books, fold them into paper airplanes, and hurl them at the performers. Now, 3 years later, Marvel would be approached by a man named Steve Krantz with a pitch for a full-length, live-action Spider-Man movie. Krantz had experience working with Spider-Man already, having been a producer on the 1967 Spider-Man cartoon. He would hope to turn Spider-Man into a full-length musical that was described as being an action fantasy. However, he would later decide to scrap the musical idea in favor of a more straightforward adaptation. Marvel would officially sell the rights to Krantz in 1976, but by this point, his idea for a Spider-Man movie would instead be based on the night Gwen Stacy died, and would see, and I'm not kidding here, Spider-Man fighting against neo-Nazis in a giant 100-foot-tall robot. However, when he attempted to pitch the movie to studios, none of them were interested, due to the high budget that would be required. The rights to Spider-Man would then expire, and Marvel would sell the TV rights to CBS, who'd go on to air a live-action show called The Amazing Spider-Man, which starred Nicholas Hammond in 1977. So what do I think of this version of Spider-Man? Well, I have to talk about it in two parts. The first part being the musical. In real life, they did a Spider-Man musical called Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark. At least I think that's what it was called. I forget the title sometimes, forgive me. And from what I've heard about it anyway, because I haven't seen it, but from what I've heard, it was terrible. So maybe it's for the best that Spider-Man was not a musical. But personally, I think it would actually work as a musical in the right person's hands. I mean, tell me that you don't think The Night Gwen Stacy Died could work as an opera. Like, that just sounds like a perfect fit for opera, in my opinion. But, you know, as a first Spider-Man movie, I am a little worried it would suffer from something I like to call the Little Shop of Horrors effect. Because the Little Shop of Horrors did not start off as a musical, and then it became a musical when it was adapted to film, and then every version since then has been a musical as well, and people forget that it wasn't always a musical. And I'm worried that if they started off Spider-Man with a musical, and it was good, then every subsequent version would feel the need to be a musical as well, and we never get a comic-accurate Spider-Man Spider-Man movie. That's what I'm a little worried about. Like, even if the musical was good, I'm a little worried that it would mean that we'd never get a Spider-Man movie that was not a musical. And also, musicals don't tend to get sequels a whole lot, so I have a hard time imagining them making more of these after that. So yeah, I don't know. It doesn't really sound like the best idea in the world to me, even if I do think it's not completely a lost cause. It raises a lot of questions about the future of the character in cinema, at least in my opinion. And then there's the non-musical version, which I actually think sounds worse, honestly. Like, I cannot tell you how much I hate the idea for that movie. Like, seriously, why would he be fighting neo-Nazis? That's stupid, in my opinion. Like, it would just be bad, in my opinion. It would just be so bad. And don't even get me started on the robot. Like, I just think it would be dumb. Like, I know he's fought robots before, but, like, man, it would look so bad in the 70s. And yeah, I mean, special effects don't always matter, but, like, whew, I really think this movie would have been so bad. I really do. I think it would have been so bad, guys. That's at least in my opinion. Like, I don't know who they're going to cast. I don't know if it still would have been Nicholas Hammond or not. If it was, then, I mean, Nicholas Hammond was kind of underrated as Spider-Man, in my opinion. He's the Spider-Man that time forgot. Everybody keeps saying Andrew Garfield is the Spider-Man everyone forgot. No, Nicholas Hammond is the Spider-Man everyone forgot, because people don't even know that there was a live-action Spider-Man before Tobey Maguire, and there was. So, if Nicholas Hammond had been in this movie, maybe he could elevate the material, but it doesn't really sound like it. I seriously doubt in the 70s they would honestly care to make a truly great movie about Spider-Man. I'm pretty sure they would just want to make it to make a quick buck, and they wouldn't put that much effort into it. Just being honest. And for the record, Steve Krantz working on the animated show, I don't think that really gives him any favors here, because that cartoon was shit. So I really don't think that would even matter. So yeah, am I happy this version was not made? Yeah. If I'm being honest with you guys, I don't think the world was ready for a Spider-Man film in the 70s. I'm not counting the Nicholas Hammond films, because they weren't really movies. They were just episodes packaged together. But, the show, I think, would have been a lot more popular today than it was back then. So, I just don't know if the world was ready for a Spider-Man movie, like a proper one in the 70s. I don't know. I really don't know. And, as I said, Steve Krantz, he worked on the bad cartoon. So I can't say I think this would be good. I just can't. I try to be optimistic. The musical idea doesn't sound terrible to me. And as I said, maybe the material would have been better in translation than it is on paper, with the neo-Nazis and the giant robot. Maybe it would have come out better on the other end. I don't know. But from my perspective, it sounds bad. It sounds so bad. And I'm definitely glad that they went with the TV show instead, because I think the show is very much of its time, but it is a bit underrated in my opinion. And deserves a rewatch, because I believe all the episodes are free to watch on YouTube. I think at least the movies are free to watch on YouTube. So check those out, because I honestly think Nicholas Hammond is underrated. But anyway, let me know in the comments down below what you think of Steve Krantz's canceled Spider-Man movies, I guess. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to please give it a thumbs up and share it with all of your friends on all your various social media platforms. And speaking of social media, don't forget to follow me on Instagram, Rinzler_Productions, and I'll see all of you tomorrow in the next video.